Wow. I got some feedback or something going on here in the background here. Ah, there we go. Got rid of it. Hey, 28 millimeter RPG with the mind's eye. We have part of the RPG Crusade with us here. Today, we are going to go ahead and go over my last session, which I feel was kind of like one of my lower kind of quality sessions. And I want you guys to chirp in and say, hey, what we can do to fix this session and give me some ideas, maybe some bounce some things around and stuff. So with me today, we have RPG is Dumb. There. Down below, we have Shauner. And Kitty Corner is Abraham, of course. My hand don't work that way. I appreciate you guys all showing up for this. And today, I'm going to go over my session, my last one. Go ahead and we're up here. Whew. It's been a while. How are you guys been doing?
Better.
Excellent.
Good. I know we've been missing some RPG is Dumb. So
I am hearing severe echo, like total echo.
Are
From
you?
who?
I don't hear any echo.
everyone. Fine. That's weird.
I know I had
Oh,
an
yeah.
echo from
Okay,
from
I
one
know.
of my
I know. Got rid of it.
Got her.
I got it. I know where
Okay.
it was. I thought it closed everything.
Yeah, same here. Oh, technology.
Please, please continue.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at this session. I think this is right in the beginning when I get things started. I'm laying down the law to these guys here. Right now.
Garbage.
All right. The way we do this, let's introduce Gordo. Gordo is playing Adamus.
Hey, bud. How's it going?
Hey. I'm not too sure if there's anybody on stream right now, but it's cool. And don't see any comments yet. Just my stream elements robot saying stuff. That's about it. So just to get everybody back into the headspace again, do you want me to go ahead and speed it up?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or find a spot that you think is problematic.
Well,
Go a little
there's-
ways into the middle when you start the conversation, because I got something to add about that.
the middle of the conversation.
Yeah, like about 5 minutes further than you are right now.
Oh, okay. Once again, the one who had been shot in the head, and she had a some sort of a Dukuian technology implant put into her head. This is me doing a recap, basically. Pass a recap.
Well, no, what I was just going to add, so is this the first session, or does this one continue on with something else?
This is a continuation. So we're continuing on from a session where they had finally discovered that one of their crewmates from 20 years ago has died, but the Dukuian implant that was put into her brain has been taken out of her, and it has been turned into an AI. So it's essentially an AI that's running the planet. Basically, they're taking this high-tech AI out of her and creating something new out of it.
So one of the things that I would suggest is when you have an idea like that, there's a lot going on with that, and a major part of getting ready for this game in my brain would be on how to convey that in as an efficient and economical way as possible, using it brevity to its fullest to just get through it as soon as possible, because it felt like you bogged down a considerable amount of the beginning of the session in conversation. And you also, when you don't have the technical know-how that your NPC is, and you start inviting that kind of back and forth conversation, before you know it, you're answering questions that you don't even know the answers to. You know what I mean? And you're the game master. So when I have players interact with NPCs, especially main NPCs, and especially when I first introduce them, it's a very sort of controlled environment, like when Darth Vader shows up on the ship in A New Hope and he's talking to Princess Leia, he has certain things that's going to get conveyed to Leia, to the audience, and then he's done. There's no long back and forth between the players. Like, he comes in and he conveys something that the players need to know about the future, and then it's over. And I feel like brevity helps a lot with NPCs and getting straight to the point. And when you have a situation like you're trying to do, when you're trying to convey things about AI and all these other things, the challenge is conveying it as, like I said, in as an economical way as possible, as quick and as compact and impactful as possible. If you get too long on that, then everybody starts to get lost. And then again, you start getting into questions that you don't even know the answers to.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's kind of like backing yourself into a corner. Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Good points. So far, Sir Adamus. Oh, you're muted.
Hard. Most impressive and unexpected. Do you suppose that we could have a full tour?
A full tour.
Gordo was pretty engaging in this conversation too, but
areas. He was. He took me by surprise, though, a few times there. So his suggestion.
I could see that. Yeah, he was ready to engage. There wasn't enough narrowed down context for the conversation, in my opinion. So he was kind of engaging, and it would go all over the place. And I could tell you were like, "This is not where we're headed." And then your NPCs get watered down because you're trying to figure out how to answer questions as the NPC, and they start losing their definement.
Yes.
Yeah, the NPC becomes one of the characters in the game. And then the NPC is the savant who has the answers for everything. And then the players just want to sit around and talk to the NPC instead of getting stuff done.
Right.
That's what I've noticed in the game.
So you think if I would have just thrown in the action, basically, it would have been helped the situation, or
well, take yourself out of the loop.
Okay, gotcha.
So if the players are doing the round robin, this guy gets a turn, this guy gets a turn. Skip over your guy. This guy gets a turn. This guy gets a turn. Skip over your guy. But you're doing the main stuff some of the time, and the other players the other players aren't saying a word while your character is doing all the talking.
Yes. Yeah. I have to. Yeah, definitely have to hold myself back out of the spectrum and get them engaging with each other a little bit more.
Be that puppet in Empire Strikes Back that sat next to Lando on the Millennium Falcon. Or was it just a guy with the mask on or something? He doesn't say anything.
Puppet?
He's helping Lando pilot.
He nods enthusiastically.
When you say puppet, I'm thinking more or less the little guy that's beside Jabba the Hutt,
Salacious Crumb.
No, the puppet that doesn't speak. I don't know. I haven't watched Star Wars in like 40 years. So I don't know.
Another thing, this could be an error of my perception, but I've noticed, Rick, that sometimes you don't insert enough silences when you are talking. You need to just stop talking for a moment and then continue, because I've noticed that when you try to link your words together is then when you start to give too much exposition. It could be an error of my perception, but I've noticed that.
Cool. Good points. Good points. Let's continue on. Because of interest that you may have, what are you looking for?
We are still getting our bearings on this planet. We haven't been here all that long, and would love to see more of your facility.
Okay. Well, there isn't really much. We do have the skunk works downstairs. He kind of waves his hand over to the glass that you see before you. You can look down below, and you can see large machines kind of moving, the cranes and stuff like that, moving pieces of what look to be large cylinder-shaped objects down below. And it looks like from what you're seeing from the parts, as you are an engineer, reminiscent of rocket parts.
It looks like perhaps you're preparing to send some things off-world, from what I'm seeing down there?
That is true. However, we're kind of at a lack of pilots right now. but I'm sure
Where is
jobs like that
Gordo?
will be filled.
That was another thing.
Yeah,
I didn't know where any of the players were. That
okay.
was another problem I had.
Yeah. Well, last we had set off. They were all basically in one basic area where they were talking with the Dr. Val and basically the AI.
Is it a big area or a little room or what?
Yeah,
I can tell the size of the room or how close these guys were. They all spread around, or were they all together in the room, or were some of them still somewhere else?
yeah. These guys were all.
I was having those kind of problems.
Yeah, these guys were all together in the
Now,
same.
I'm just curious because I didn't see the previous game, but do these guys have like any context with each other yet? Have they done things in there?
Yeah, they are all part of a starship crew. To give you kind of an idea, they've crashed. What happened was something knocked out their fusion reactor, and they ended up crashing onto a moon. And right now, they're trying to figure out how to get their ship started. They discovered that everything that runs off of a fusion reactor doesn't work anymore, and but however, where they're at right now, down underground, way far deep inside the moon, they actually do have a fusion reactor which is working.
I think that will help you greatly if you are constantly kind of like framing the scene, because what Chandler says is true. I have no idea where they are. And sometimes I think that the players themselves sometimes have no idea exactly. Sometimes they get lost. So always try to frame you are now deep underground in the bunker or blah, blah, blah. Every time you get a chance to specify that, I think
I also would have incorporated what you just told me into the beginning of your description, so anyone that didn't watch the previous game is immediately brought up to speed on what's happening. Because there's no context for anything. So when you go into this game, it looks what I call the General Hospital start, where you just go into a scene and it's a 10-minute scene of people talking. And without any context, when you're GMing a game, keeping reality intact is very much like a house of cards, and any little thing can just make it collapse in on itself. And long dialogue scenes will often do that, especially if they're not very if the NPCs aren't very sort of fleshed out and you have everything you need at your disposal for whatever they're up to, and the players don't also have the same sort of context with each other and with the game. Long conversations will just collapse everything, in my opinion.
Okay. So good. It's shortening up of my exposition specifically.
A lot of people claim to be inspired by like Gary Gygax and places like that. All my inspirations for my game is more like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. And if you look at like a Steven Spielberg, for example, every scene is meant to be very efficient. The villains will come in and they'll say very specific things that are, dense. It'll be a dense scene, character building, plot moving, whatnot. And then it might only be 3 minutes long or 4 minutes long, but there's significant information in it, and then you move on to the next.
Gotcha.
Storyboard.
Do you tend to write down your little blurbs kind of idea in kind of a really quick short form?
I should more than I do, because I forget stuff and I pass over them. But I don't do a lot of prep, because I feel like every time I plan on the players going right, they always go left. But
now this is what happened to me, because what was supposed to happen, I thought was supposed to happen, was one of the characters was Shadow in particular, since he's a pilot, was going to take the seat of the ship that was the rocket ship that was to be sent out next, and one of them was supposed to go ahead and take over the turret area and stuff like that. It went totally like off that kind of tangent to them wanting to explore a crashed ship, which was the one from our little side adventure, the Star Fury. And they were going to go there and find some technology in there for some stealth kind of missiles and stuff like that. I thought that was fairly conceivable. So they decided that's the direction that they were going to go. Otherwise, I had an idea for when they were going to go ahead and shoot out into the stars with their rocket. However, that's not what happened. It's not what happened. So I can see how planning goes kind of awry, so to speak.
The only thing that I think I really plan for are the things that can't be changed. So,
Gotcha.
if usually my worlds are very driven by villain aspirations. They're usually the mechanisms for the wheels in motion of my world, and so certain things about those will be set in stone, and about those characters will be set in stone. But I find it's better to be as flexible as possible with everything else.
Okay. Here, anybody else want to add anything?
Not for
Nope.
now.
Soon enough, hopefully. These are test rockets. We've tried several times to attempt to reach the orbit. Unfortunately, we have been met with being shot down. Other times, just total mishaps, and we've lost entire crews of our craft and suffered greatly over the years.
Have you pinpointed the source of the effect that's causing fusion drives to be inoperative?
We assume that it is being emitted by a particular satellite that had been positioned up there. It's none of the satellites that we had positioned 20 years ago or beyond that. This is a totally different satellite up there that we had encountered.
Have you considered using your chemical rocket technology in a more offensive manner, if you know what I mean, taking out the problem at the source, and then the need for chemical rockets is not really as necessary. Fusion will work again.
We have considered that, but however, everything we send up gets shot down. So
perhaps we have some fairly brilliant members of our crew. Perhaps they could help modify your technology, make it harder to detect or more lethal. Doesn't have to get as close to its target to.
Also, too, another thing is the fact that there are enemy aliens and they're shooting down rockets and shooting down things like that. Those are things that I would put into the beginning. Like when they first walked into that room, when you're about to start that conversation, I'd probably have them walk in on other officers kind of monitoring that situation just about to go down, because it answers that preemptively, but it also builds the fact that they have alien enemies on, you're constantly building that up, so they have emotional sort of triggers going on to different species blowing up their rocket ships and things like that. So if you do have enemies on the map, I say map, but in your game, emphasizing them as much as possible, I feel like is a big driving force behind players kind of getting motivated to do X, Y, and Z.
Good points. Thanks. Yeah, I'll definitely use that next time for sure. It's a lot of things you could kind of look back and kind of like hindsight it all and everything.
It helps to watch your own games. I mean,
yeah.
I ran a game with Randy, and the second half of it was really good. And I realized watching it back that I was overly descriptive, and I just bogged it down in needless descriptions for the first 25 minutes. And you notice that stuff. Were I to have that same game in my basement and at my D&D table with my friends, all I would have remembered was how awesome the last 35 minutes were. I would have completely blanked out of my head the fact that I was long-winded about describing rotaries and highways and things like that in the very beginning of the campaign. But when I watch it back, now I know that I'm trying to achieve a certain pace at all times, because that's where my games are at their best. So you do gain a lot from watching your own stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's C4 Crispy, for instance. Yeah, he was. Abe, I know you said he shouldn't have uploaded it, but I think it speaks volumes.
No. I said I wouldn't have uploaded it. If I were C4 Crispy, I wouldn't have done it. But he, it's perfectly fine. But in my case, if I were to transform into C4 Crispy, then I would know.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean, he said he learned a lot off of it as well. So by being able to see himself,
everything is a learning process. Everything is a learning process. Even if you're the best GM in the world, you're still going to pick up things every single game that you play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also wanted to add something. Yes, definitely, this conversation that is happening in this scene, it feels really boring. It feels like you're having a conversation with someone from customer service.
It's
There's
aimless.
nothing that
Yeah.
engages you. Like, oh, do you want to buy our toner? Are you interested in purchasing toner? And I'm like, it's better like Jacob said, like have that threat, like that's a present threat, and we must do something about it or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're
yes.
talking shop, and these players don't have their character names except for maybe Cobb.
Yeah,
They
it
should
says.
have, their names should be their character names.
Yes.
Maybe underneath put their YouTube channels.
Right.
I don't know what a Gordo is.
And funny enough, Crispy is great at talking shop. Did you see him in the Dark and Terrible campaign when he was making his purchases? He was obtaining information. While he was buying stuff, he was actually, hey, what do you know about the keep at the north and hunting? He was obtaining information. Oh, that keep where Baron Uther. So that was perfect in my opinion.
Cool.
Yeah, he
cool.
seems like he seems like a really good player. GMing is a completely different thing. It's two completely different skill sets. It's not really just, and it's not like you evolve from a player into a GM. You know what I mean? Like it's a completely different skill set. I've actually only played a tabletop game. I've GM games. I ran a table for like 6 years, and I've actually only played a tabletop game once, and I got so drunk during it that it was a complete disaster. So I've GM'd many games, but I've only played once, and I have no idea how I'd be.
But the thing I notice is Gordo likes to talk as a player. And he hogs the room. He hogs the space. He's always doing the talking. The rest of the players are just kind of sitting there.
Well, he is.
It's like Gordo's trying to do some sort of investigation on his own that him as a player might be curious in doing, but it's boring for everyone else.
He's the negotiator of the group, so that's why he's usually talking the most.
I do think that it's important to emphasize more exciting situations and have the downtime conversations be limited. More situations, because there's not really in a longer conversation. There's no opportunities for characters to demonstrate who they are. Whereas if they were coming and landing in a space station and one of their engines malfunctioned and they were all trying to figure out how they were going to land safely with multiple ships, with one pooling smoke out of it or something like that, then you have situations for players to kind of show their merit or whatever. Just situations that are somewhat challenging. Maybe they pick on one person or whatever, and and then when you get to this, again, every time that happens, it forges the party and it sculpts the party more. And then when you get to situations like this where you're conversing with NPCs, they just have more context with one another and the world to kind of make it more believable and natural.
Gotcha. All right, so shall we head on a little bit further on into the session here?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
See what else happens here. I think everybody else. It feels kind of it gets too boring, but I think I know all these things that I need to fix. And another thing is me to kind of cut back and become more narrator mode. I think I'm being, once again, that's one thing that I was saying is I've become too much NPC guy instead. And I definitely have to go ahead and cut myself back and stay in narrator form and describe things a little bit more when they're approaching different areas or something like that, and
So,
focus in
Rick,
on that.
Rick, are you a Star Wars guy or a Star Trek guy?
I'm probably more Star Wars.
Okay. In Star Wars, think of a scene where a character talked a lot. Do you remember one?
Yeah, no.
It's all very, very, brevity and right to the point and conveying
It's very
things
pulpy.
and as little. The opening scene in Star Wars is famous for how much it conveyed in the first 20 seconds. The little tiny ship flies over, and then the long Star Destroyer just keeps going and going and going and going. And in the first 15 seconds, you know all you need to know about that universe. The Galactic Empire is massively powerful, and the rebels are massively outgunned. And
Right.
you know, every scene. Same thing with like the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first 10 minutes, you learn everything you need to know about Indiana Jones. The beginning of Pirates of the Caribbean. The first 3 minutes, you learn everything you need to know about Captain Jack Sparrow. Comes in on the boat, it sinks right as he hits the dock. He steps off, he gives 3 shillings, and then he steals a bag and continues on his way.
Yeah,
And
because
it's
in
all
Japanese
very, very
cartoons,
effective use of time.
they have talking heads in Japanese cartoons, and they're just and it's they're just their mouth is moving, their head isn't moving, just their mouth is moving.
Right.
You know, Macross Saga is full of talking head scenes.
Yes.
People want to see the action. They want to see Rick, you know, one-lining somebody as he shoots him down.
And you can have action drive story too. You know what I mean? It doesn't just need to be a combat sludge fest. It can even be things that they're taking care of very quick and very easily, but at least now the characters are on alert. They're operating differently than if they're just in a long conversation. So you can move the story forward with you know, action
like battle
sequences and things like that.
Or the train's going to be early or late or whatever. Got to get on the train or something.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest
not standing in a general. What did you say? General hospital. Not standing in
Yeah.
a general
Hospital.
hospital
Yeah.
office, doctor's office for 10
Well, the
minutes
soap opera
talking.
called General Hospital, and they just have the, you know, they talk and talk and talk and talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Rick-
they took me like off the loop. Like I thought for sure that this was the path that they were going on, and they kind of flipped the script on me. So
Also,
It's,
I always think that the player should have some sort of sense of urgency behind them. I think in most of my games there's something pushing on them, you know, something behind them. There's a schedule to maintain. There's some sense of urgency for some reason, and it, you know, that also helps moving things forward.
I do my NPCs like C-3PO. He's got something important to say, and Han Solo's like, "Shut up! This, you know, someone shut this droid up." And it's like, okay, that's information the players won't get then. But then I'll blurt it out later.
right.
Sir, there's a transmission coming from Homeworld. You know, I think you should hear it. You know, that kind of thing. But it's probably too late by then.
Rick, I don't know if you saw my Super Smash Bros. Campaign and the one-shot, the Behind the Walls one-shot. There is little to no NPC interaction. Everything is action-driven. There is a lot of combat, a lot of obstacle avoiding, jumping, destroying. That's a good example of that.
Yeah, that's how my first Rifts campaign with the Legion of Myth, they were just out in the wasteland by themselves. So there was nobody to talk to. They didn't talk to anybody until they got back to the city. You know, so it was just the 5 of them driving the conversation with the things that they were encountering.
And then
You do need players to do that, though. I mean, you
the
set them
longest
up
scene-
to succeed,
Go
but
ahead.
you do need players to follow up.
Yeah.
The longest scene I'll do is the one from Beyond Thunderdome. Mad Max finds those kids. They basically haul them into their theater room, playing records, slideshows of Captain Walker and Mrs. Walker, and he's kind of like trapped there, or he's basically being the audience. He's the eyes and ears for the audience. So he's just sitting there, taking in the scenery from these kids, trying to figure out where are these kids from, what's going on here. That was kind of a long scene in the movie. It goes on for like 5 minutes. Most of the time, it's just him walking from place to place and just looking at stuff with his telescope.
Right.
And you
You
still
could
see
also-
the action. The
you could
action
also
happens
think-
in his telescope.
You could also think of the scenario of the scenes as non-player characters as well. Like Jacob said, the desert. What is the desert communicating? What sorts of dangers it is hiding? Think about it like that.
Gotcha. That's a good thing. I didn't even think about that. And
Wasn't there a mouse in Dune? Like, you think, oh, there's a desert world. There's nothing can live on this planet. And then the camera focuses on this little mouse that's like collecting dew around its ears and stuff.
I haven't seen that movie film yet.
Before it
but
goes back into the sand. It's like a sand rat or something. It's kind of a cool scene.
I do also think that you want everything to move everything forward. So not just your nightly campaign, but every segment of it, you want to try and propel the, I say story, but I mean players and their story forward. So I spend a lot of time. I don't prep much, but I do spend a lot of time kind of thinking about how I'm going to structure certain things in my games. And the more complicated that it is, the information I need to convey, the NPC I want to introduce, the more effort I put into thinking about how to make that as brief and effective and impactful as possible, and instead of it turning into a huge thing, because you want things to be short. That's where they have more impact. Like Darth Vader comes on after they kill all the rebels, and he goes up to talk to Leia, and he just lays down the law and tells her how it's going to be, and then says, "Take her away." You know what I mean? He doesn't allow. If Star Wars started with a 20-minute back and forth between those two, you know what I mean? It's not Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
So, and that drives forward. That scene sets up the next scene, and then that sets up the next scene, and that sets up the next scene. So, put it in a campaign perspective, when I started the Legion of Myth campaign, the first one was just to let them breathe. They're out in the desert, they're a mile away from their objective. There's lots of things to do, but it's mostly just to let them establish who they are, so I know what I'm going to be setting up for them in the next game, based on, like Heathen Dog showed me that he was a super brave soldier. Max showed me that he was a pretty competent, reserve commander. Brandy showed me he was crazy, and yada, 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 and on it went. But, the first one I let them breathe. But after that, it's every segment you want to move into the next segment. You don't really want any aimlessness. And when it starts to go that way, even if it's making artillery shells start to land around everyone just to get their, get their asses up off the ground, that's what you introduce. So you keep everything impactful and moving and significant. Everything should be significant.
Okay. Good.
And
Perfect.
with Gordo, I guess he's negotiating or something, or he wants all the information before he'll decide on something. How about while he's doing that, the other players could be saying where they're at and what they're doing? And then you come back to Gordo, and Gordo says he can just say, "I'm still negotiating with the guy," and then you skip him and you go off and have the other players doing something. You do a round robin.
I did have a sequence in here where Spencer was basically off to the side. He was talking to the AI of Tara and conversing with her, where the rest of them were talking amongst themselves. And then I noticed that Spencer went ahead and kind of introduced himself back into the room again, instead of having him off to the side like he was supposed to. It was kind of like he metaed himself back into the group. He should have been just laying low, carrying on his conversation with Tara, in the background, and but he ended up popping back into the scene again, which I found kind of interesting.
Well, you also have to control time too,
Yeah.
and when you switch to somebody else, a group, you need to focus on them and then just shut him right out if he says anything, because he's already conversing with the AI.
Yeah. Do you think I should put that in as part of the, our session 0 kind of stuff, to kind of, dictate that everything should be kind of short and concise?
If I were you, I would actually start practicing managing it in game yourself without even bringing it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What I would do, I would find
It's
a
an
chance,
easy fix.
a chance to cut off Gordo, like saying something like, "Well, John Doe negotiates with Jane Doe. This other guy finds himself in the control room," and then shift the attention to that guy.
Okay. Okay.
Or Gordo could be doing something. He could be doing something and still be talking to an NPC at the same time. Instead of just standing in a room, being a talking head, he could be in motion. He's flipping levers, he's looking at the gauges on the walls, he's writing stuff down.
To be honest, I
having
can't
a
really fault the
conversation.
players for anything here. I mean, just to lay it on the line, I think Rick let this situation become too ambiguous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because exactly, and that's why we're here
'Cause
doing this.
I'd rather just see a show with the NPC and Gordo and cut the rest of the guys out and just have Gordo role play against the GM in one session. Just have that.
Gotcha.
If Gordo likes to do that, just talk and talk and talk.
Okay, let us continue on here. Let's see where we're at. So, what's the plan? Well, that's my mistake. I keep
What
on.
do you
Yep,
do?
yep. What do you do? Yeah, I started realizing that I was doing that all of a sudden, and in order to kind of prompt the players forward. So that I felt was kind of and once again, the players not saying what they're doing action wise. It was more or less talking heads.
So they're on a moon right now, just to get the urgency going. Since you wanted them to do something else, and they started going to the ship, I literally just have the moon be unstable. Every now and then it starts shaking, and then they know like that they have to get the hell off the moon.
The
Now
original.
they can't just roam around and do whatever they want. Like every 10 minutes, just have like this terrible, earthquake, moonquake, and so that they have a little bit of urgency to get off of it.
The original urgency was their ship lost the power, and their suits run off of a battery now because the fusion battery, their fusion drive in their battle suits isn't functioning. So what they were doing is they were trying to get across as quickly as possible to a place where they can find answers on what was happening, and now that they're in an enclosed environment, kind of like not worrying about their suits anymore, I feel like I kind of lost that urgency because now they're kind of like, oh yeah, we can relax now, kind of idea. So, and yeah, I need to go ahead and throw in another kind of thing to kind of keep them going forwards, propelling them, in order to fix whatever it
It
is.
also layers it more. It also just adds a further layer, and more. The more layers you have, the more opportunities that you will have for role-playing situations to kind of blossom out of their own accord.
Well, they can in Fallout 3. The player talks to an NPC, and they have 3 actions. They can say something negative, something gray, something good to the NPC. Depending on what they say, the NPC might offer them a job, or the NPC might offer them some help, or the NPC might say, "Screw you, get off my lawn." But if, let's say, you do something nice for the NPC, you come back a few days later, the NPC has something else for you to do. Instead of you picking at the NPC for all the possible things that this NPC has problems with that you can fix right now. While we're here, we'll fix all your problems right now. Just let us know what they all are. Because that's kind of what I felt like when I was listening to this, is that the NPC is giving them like an info dump of all the stuff that's been happening since before these guys arrived.
Gotcha.
Instead of just give them one little thing to fix, and then if they have time to stay, they can fix something else that's wrong with this place
I also don't know. I don't know everything that you were trying to convey in this, but if they were supposed to fix the ship, I would, again, I'd have the moon rumbling to give them the sense of urgency. But I don't know if you can have life on the planet, but you set up situations where some of the guys have to set up lookouts, so the guy repairing the ship isn't getting mauled by predators and things like that. And then in fixing the ship, you just have a more tangible, exciting situation.
Right.
So just layer it as much as possible. Somebody's going to have to keep watch, or there's going to be predators lurking up and eating them while they're trying to fix the ship. And now you got people doing things outside of fixing the ship. Everybody starts to get a role going on, and they're,
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes, create a sense of time that the world is actually alive. If the players are dozing off like that, that's because they feel too comfortable. They feel we just need to doze off and nothing is going to happen. Have something happen, just like in real life. If you are just slipping away things, suddenly you are late for work, suddenly someone comes to visit, it could be anything.
And I would never be scared to kill a character to put that point over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm joking.
And I just felt like, basically all of this, we kind of got down to the crux of what the issue was. And I think, yeah, I should have had more push for them to get something done quick. The main thing that they're trying to do now is get rid of that satellite that's up there that's causing the fusion dampening, which is incurring on all the fusion reactors, fusion drives, anything fusion related. So, and of course, it there wasn't anything impacting them throughout this part. So,
Scene with all the
Well-
yellow tape all around it and everything.
Just to say, basically,
But,
based
the
on what you
police are
just
gone.
said, you mentioned the satellite. So you got the satellite and you got the crash ship. So one of your problems here is that you have all sorts of problems, but no danger to go with it. So all they're doing is problem solving, but there's no
Gotcha.
tension hanging over any of the problems.
Good point. Good point.
Have those problems become worse, even worse? Now the dampening is more difficult to solve. Something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do have some other things that have been occurring, like they were getting sniped by the Borga, which is the lizard creatures, which was from their last session. That I should have brought back in again and started having them creating some chaos and stuff like that. It's kind of a mixed opportunity that I kind of just fell flat on. I kind of felt where I could have added in some sort of urgency that way.
I mean, I do the same thing if I run a game just off the top of my head, no prep, at 2 a.m, and I'm dead tired. I'll get lazy and just stop. I'll start running out of ideas. It's like, okay, I've made up all this stuff for you guys. Now role play. I did my part. It's like, no, that's not how it's done. You gotta trickle it slowly and get them engaged one at a time on things. Because I used to do the info dump all the time, because players didn't know Traveler. I felt like I had to teach them the lore of Traveler before they could start role playing.
After you explain everything that is your role to explain as game master, being the world, you're out. I once started a campaign where I was making fun of the tavern start, and I had all the players waiting in a waiting room. And the moment I finished describing the wallpaper and the furniture, I played elevator music, and I just sat there for the next 10 minutes while they figured it out, because my job was done. There was nothing. It was a small room. It's got wallpaper, it's got furniture, and there's elevator music playing. And I just, as soon as I got done, I had nothing left to do because I'm not in the room with them. So it was 10 minutes of them bitching about the music and waiting to go and to, begin their campaign. But you don't need to overdo your job. The moment everything is described that needs to be described, you literally just cash out. And another thing too, I think in my first ever How to Game Master video, I mentioned, and I can see this a little in you when you started. One thing I think is very important for a game master to do is not act like he's hanging out with the party. You really want to be a completely separate entity from everybody else. And instead of, you don't want to be their buddy, you're not part of the party, you don't want to hang out with them. You want to make sure that just an aura, there's a very distinct separation between player and world.
Okay.
The girl at Starbucks hates you when her job is done for the day and she's going home. She's not going to stand around and answer questions you might have. No, she's gone. She's clocked out. She's gone.
Good points.
Rick asked us to come on and roast this game, so don't blame us.
No, yeah, nobody's. This is for everybody to get myself to kind of get in touch with, what I'm doing wrong sometimes, and it's good to kind of get a lot of feedback and everything. So, yeah, we have a lot of people saying stuff in the background here. Just randomly roll behind the screen. Maybe it's nothing. Yeah, I don't use a screen or anything. So just
I did that constantly in the Dark and Terrible campaign. I was constantly rolling, and sometimes it was just to get the players nervous.
Okay.
Oh, so you do that. You're the one.
Yeah, but I don't fetch dice. I'm not even paying attention to them. I'm just rolling and pretending like, it's something really important. Something is going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, that might add a little bit more tension, right? You know, psychology thing.
Tape and roll it up, pocket it.
Hey, hey, feel free to add that as a piece of equipment that you have. No problem.
Now, do you think I should be relaying stuff like this? You know,
Like
or
what?
do you like telling him to go ahead and write it down as a piece of equipment? Like, I feel it's kind of redundant.
No, you can't have any out of character talk.
Exactly.
I've been ignoring most of the stuff you say in this game because my brain is just used to doing that now. So I missed out on a lot of the things in the game. I'm looking for in-character stuff,
Gotcha.
if that makes sense.
And Tara says, and if you wish to have cutting torches, I do have access to
My
those.
question would be, how
I
did he
will have
get
them
the
sent to you.
equipment? What did he have and who gave it to him? How did he get
Oh,
it?
okay. It was a group of guys that were out at the. They were conversing with the AI. The AI was verifying that they were allowed to get all this equipment.
Okay,
So-
that's all you have to say.
yeah.
That's all you have to say. And just say it once. And if they forget, then they don't get the equipment. I don't have NPCs repeat the same information over and over and over again. I say, I told you once. That's it. Leave me alone. I got stuff to do.
Anything we can get.
It's not the end of the world if they don't get the
You
equipment.
have a some form of a weapon.
Some sort of heavy weapons if we can.
Very well. I will have that sent along as well. And as that proceeds, you are basically standing in front of the Jugger's unit, whatever you may want to call it, mining vehicle. And soon enough, a group of guys show up with a some sort of a machine connected to a couple of long lines, and it's got a couple of knobs on there, a few tanks on board of it as well. And they basically drop it out in front of the ship, and they hit you guys, and there you go.
So-
You're cutting.
You're doing a lot of info dumping in this instead of narrating things that are happening. You know, instead of, you just said that those guys showed up or whatever it was, instead of having them first hear a vehicle coming in the distance and then describing the earth getting kicked up in the rear tires as it gets closer and closer, and then the guys coming out, you just kind of info dumped it on them. So
RPG is dumb is good at
Yeah.
describing a Jeep in the distance coming towards you and the dirt behind it. And you're like, oh,
I would
who's going to
definitely-
be in the Jeep? You have no idea. All this suspense about a Jeep.
I would
That's really
definitely
cool.
work on trying to narrate things more than info dump them.
Gotcha.
And you handle it too much like a conversation. It's not a conversation. You are describing things and show. Don't tell. Just show.
That's what I noticed. You can't really tell when I go into like a narrator mode or into an NPC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that
Yeah.
too. When I narrate, I sound like an NPC who's just talking to the players. Okay, you guys go down there and this happens to you and blah, blah, blah. I sound like one of my NPCs I was last using sometimes.
If you're also
need to
going to
stop doing
convey
that, too.
something with an important NPC, I find it's super useful to kind of come up with one thing that you can add just to emphasize their character or something like that. So, I mean, when I introduced my fascist military commander, Colonel Treadmore, after I had him give some pompous speech to Max about what he was going to do, I just had him run his finger across the windowsill, kind of inspecting the dust, just to show that he's a prick, you know, and flick the dust away. But a little tiny addition will make a huge difference in a character. And it just needs to be some small little thing, because you just want something that the player's imagination is going to latch onto. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I do when I'm describing backdrops or something. You want to come up with one thing that you know, even though everyone's describing, envisioning things differently in their heads, there's going to be one focal point that everybody is kind of getting the same.
Yeah.
It might also help to develop a GM voice. Like when I describe things, I'm always like, You open the door, but you find nothing there. It sounds a bit flamboyant, but it kind of separates you from the group. You are not there. You are something else.
I'm going to try that, definitely. Thanks, Abe.
Yeah, Abe is the voice in the character's head. There's nothing there.
I'll have to use my dark, deep voice when I describe things like this.
This was a complete waste of time.
No, this is absolutely not a complete waste of time. This is valuable information. So I really appreciate this.
But one thing, you need to do the round robin.
Yes.
Just to play with. Don't literally do round robin. I mean, some players are going to be emphasized more than other players depending on the scene, but
I also think that that's fair, by the way. I have always played favorites at my table, and I don't play favorites based on who I like the most. I play favorites based on who is contributing to the visual the most. That's also what I award XP the most for. So, for example, in a combat situation, if one guy is playing a scientist and he spends the entire fight hiding behind cover, but he's also painting a visual of that the entire time better than everybody else who's killing a monster, he's going to get the most XP out of that fight, even though everybody else killed it. And I play just in generally, I play the same way. So if I have a 5-person table and 3 of them are really good, and of those 3, 1 are really good, that 1 becomes the Aragon of my campaign. The other 2 become the Legolas and the Gimli. And the 2 people that don't really say anything become, the hirelings that are kind of tagging along. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
I can see your point on why you want to reward, certain kinds of behaviors that way. And yeah.
Well, someone's going to take over the story and be a more active player, then they are affirming themselves as the main character in your story. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they're going to take the initiative to affirm themselves like that, then they're becoming the main character in your story, whether you want them to be or not. So you might as well treat them like that.
Yeah,
that's true. I've had players that they just stand out from the other players.
Thank you.
Frank, let's get this stuff on board.
You and Frank end up, picking it up and start hauling it up inside. No problem. The inner hull had been, everything inside the hold has been drained. You can see that it is open in the back. There the kind of like part of the backing of the machine is kind of like pulled back, kind of like a convertible, and you can see that it is open and basically, it's kind of like a big giant Euclid truck, basically from what you can see in its function right now. And soon enough, there is another vehicle that comes by, and they drop off 2 large cases, large kind of suitcases. These things look to be about
okay, so stop.
long.
When you say the second vehicle shows up and they drop off, it's like you're fast forwarding, sort of. It takes a while to unload a truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you aren't really letting these guys breathe too much.
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's a lot to do with one truck coming and unloading stuff, but you
if
definitely
they wait long
want
enough,
to foster
if they
more
wait long enough, a
situations where they
city
can
might
breathe.
be built around them or something, or a Taco Bell might show up where they can go eat. If they just stay quiet and wait.
Or have like a sandstorm start to kick up, so they got to help unload because everyone's trying to get it done super fast. Always just an urgency situation coming up. You know what I mean? Like if all you're going to be doing is unloading equipment from a truck, you might as well spice it up a little bit. You know what I mean? And have a sort of like a sandstorm start to swell up or something like that, where the NPCs are, then the players, if they have any initiative, they'll run over like you would in real life in that sort of situation and do what you can to help the guys get the stuff unloaded as soon as possible. And it gives them situations to either show their quality or not show their quality, and either is fine.
Right.
I mean, it's not either is not fine, but you'll at least know what the score is.
Yeah, I do have a tendency to go ahead and try to quicken what I think is boring and mundane when I should be, I guess, pretty much
you're doing it anyway. That's
or
the thing.
adding something to it in order to make it feel a little bit more urgent.
Yeah, try to divide your exposition, your description of the things, and give them opportunity to act between those divisions.
Like each person says what they're doing, where they're at, and then you say exposition, a sentence or two, and then they get to say where they're at, what they're doing, if something else is changing. And then you don't say anything. Just let them do whatever it is they're in the middle of doing. I'm assuming they're all extremely busy, and that's why they're not talking to you, because they're busy already with assignments to do. And they'll let you know when they're done with those. Because I can't tell. Or they're just standing there watching the trucks go by.
Yeah, this is them kind of just watching the trucks go by.
Because okay, like Disneyland has no trucks, right? There's no trucks in Disneyland. If you ever see a truck come into Disneyland and stop, and guys are unloading boxes from the back of it, something's up. Because they don't have trucks in Disneyland. Trucks are all underground. All
The
of
other
it. It's
thing,
all
though, too, is
underground.
there's not necessarily a lot for them to engage with at this, at the moment either. So there's not really. I mean, what would they do theoretically? What would they discuss as players right now? Just mentioning that they're watching the trucks come in. Like there's not really a lot going on for them to grab onto.
Yeah. I should have been basically asserting their actions instead. Like what they are doing at the time, and yeah, it would
Get a
have.
sound bar. Get a sound bar or sound button of crickets and play that to let the players know they need to start talking.
Okay.
It's their turn.
Yeah.
Play the crickets when it's their turn to talk.
It's also related to what you said, Rick. If you think it's too boring, give a very brief summary of that. The trucks came and unloaded stuff, and then move on to the exciting things.
Oh, okay.
Or have them come out right as they're wrapping it up, right as they're. So you still establish that the trucks got unloaded and that they were there, but they came out to it as they're finishing it up. So you can move right on to what you feel is important.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I should. As I was describing things, I'm trying to give them opportunity to interact when I should just have the truck unloaded and away it goes, instead of getting all descriptive and everything with the whole thing. It should have been something that's like one and done kind of thing.
You want to set up situations for them to start kind of going too. Like I have there's a scenario in one of my games where they're dealing with the little. It's a hive mind creature, and he's got little tiny insects. That's how he sees, and they're all over the place, and the players are popping them off left and right. And there was a situation where one of the players wanted to see how weak they were, and they were going to go over and try and step on it. And as a GM, I thought immediately this is a great opportunity for me to set this guy up. It's almost like an alley-oop in basketball, where I throw the basketball up knowing that the player is going to grab it and dunk. Because when he walked over to the magotpede, when he stated his intention to step on it, I started going into this description about the thing kind of looking like a xenomorph and violently hissing at him, and I knew that he was going to pull out the gun and shoot him, but I also knew that was going to be hilarious for all the other people in the party. So it's like I already knew where that was going to go the moment he told me he wanted to go over there and step on him. So I just set him up with the situation. Like I said, it's like an alley-oop in basketball. I threw the basketball up, and I knew that he was going to pull out the gun and shoot it instead, which would be funny in that space and time. And and then it gets RP going, because all the other players started, they started attaching themselves to what just happened, and it got 2 minutes of back and forth going, and people shaking their head and things like that. It set up a comedic moment in the game, and it looks natural. If you were to watch it, you look natural, but I knew where that was going 15 seconds before it happened on video. Like I knew what he was going to do. As soon as he told me he wanted to step on it, I knew in my head, I'm going to make this thing terrifying, so he's going to totally change his mind. It'll be funny, and it'll get things going on. So you constantly want to be setting your players up for situations where they can go.
Perfect. Awesome. Let's go on a little bit further here. Now, I believe this part here, they're traveling across
up on the screen, and she brings up this entire mapping of the entire area of the entire planet. If you wanted, circles back down to the area where you're at, and kind of does a little bit of a checking out the best angles of view, and brings it up nice and zoomed in. Yeah, you're seeing basically the smashed remains of the Star Fury as far as it's projected on that map. showing the basically the trailing end of it. Then there's a long break, and then there's a part of the ship that's kind of separated off in the other part. She kind of points and says that part there should be where we would be headed for the mid part of the ship.
See,
That
I
would be
already
where
said
they
it,
would
but
be
your
storing stuff like
narration
missile
is
arrays,
very info dumpy. I would definitely work on trying to narrate these things more, because it's all the narration just comes off as very info dumpy, and it's a lot too. So you start, it's a lot coming at you, so you don't really take, if there's any moment of this that's supposed to be significant, they're not really getting it because you're not emphasizing the significance. It's like if you were to describe again the beginning of A New Hope in Star Wars, one ship flies overhead, and then a bigger ship flies overhead shooting at it. Like, wording it like that, info dumpity, but it doesn't at all convey the significance of what that beginning shot is supposed to sell. So if there's any moment of these narrations that you're going through that's something that you really want the players to, you really want it to sink into their imagination, you're not emphasizing it enough, because it just gets lost in all of the other little pieces of information that you're dropping on them.
Yeah, it should have been something like suddenly the 3D hologram shows you the ginormic ship and the fracture, and then it pinpoints the little targeting area of where the missile silos are on board the ship, and that appears to be the location.
And try not to influence the perception of the players too
Yeah.
much. I don't know if you noticed, but you said basically twice in this small bit. You said basically twice. So when you say basically, they're gonna it's basic. It's basic. So they kind of like fall into that perception. Maybe you wanted things to be a bit more exciting or whatever. Just describe the thing. Don't add basically or as usual. Just let them perceive things.
Well, in these clips, I haven't seen 3 of the players. I haven't seen talk in these clips you've been showing.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I start questioning, like, why are they there?
Yeah. It was mostly in this. It was Cobb, Gordo, and Shadow. Spence was a little earlier with his talking with the AI, his ex-girlfriend, I guess.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. I would have had that, like, if she's not going to talk with the other characters, I would have done just a one-on-one with his character in a video, just him and the AI.
Yeah. I think I did a little bit of that, and then what I did was I kind of set them aside as if they were going back to the other characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, it was kind of like he suddenly projected himself back into the room with the group. So I felt that was a little weird, but it happens. I'm not gonna. I should have said, "Oh, hold up, you're not in the room."
Try to find ways to pull the other players into the action, because I noticed that sometimes they kind of like doze off again. And you said that you have problems when they are not exactly defining their positions, their locations. And that's because sometimes I feel like they lose interest completely. Like, oh, I'm going to wait until Gordo finishes talking or until Rick finishes describing things. And I think they lose interest at times. Pull them in some way, introduce a non-player character, an event that only that particular character over there that is not speaking at all or interacting at all, only he or can do the thing or whatever is needed.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Smooth sailing as she's going along. And there's as you're driving along, there doesn't appear to be any kind of conflict as you're going along. You don't get anybody trying to shoot at the craft at all. Is there anybody manning the turrets at this time?
Yep, I'll be manning the turrets.
Okay. There we go. Me once again go ahead and try to influence movement kind of idea without saying.
Now, are you about to attack them? Is that why someone's getting in the turret?
So he was manning the turret on board the mining vehicle that they are on right now, and what they're doing is they're going towards the Star Fury, which is the crashed ship from a long ago episode, One Shot. that I had. So it's a big battle cruiser that had crashed onto the planet, onto the moon, like 20 years ago, kind of idea. And what they're doing is they're trying to get the stealth missiles out of it in order to use it against those satellites up above. That was their plan.
Instead of asking, is there someone at the turrets, say something like the turrets are operational, or the turrets are online. They are
Yeah.
operational. So you kind of like cue them, like it's your chance.
Exactly. I'm yeah, definitely. That is a good one.
Description.
Yep.
Or the proactive player who does that would just say that his character is going to take a look at the status on the turrets.
Okay. Have you written down here for that?
Like Luke Skywalker, he grabbed
And,
himself a turret without even asking, right?
That here.
On the Millennium Falcon. He just knew what to do. TIE fighters are attacking us? Oh, I'm going to the turret.
Yeah.
That's like the staple of a good sci-fi character. Like in Gundam, in that anime, you see an empty Gundam, giant robot, you go into the robot and you start killing stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'll have to once again make sure everybody's stating where they are instead of me trying to prompt them to go certain places, which is
They
my
just need to
bad.
practice.
Yeah.
They just need to practice doing round robin, saying just in one sentence where they're at, and then another sentence what they're doing.
I always find that funny because I think I am standing at the ritual room. I am now entering the throne room. I am in the throne room. I am now moving to the courtyard.
They're gonna sound like third graders. I'm standing in the museum. I'm looking at the dinosaur bones. But then after a while, they get into character and they start talking as their character instead of, some parrot.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. These are grown men, right? They'll figure it out.
Alrighty. And soon enough, you arrive at the outskirts of the Star Fury, and there is a basically a broken out kind of piece of bulkhead in front of you. This thing is vast. This is a massive ship, and you can tell part of it has been kind of squashed into the ground and kind of distorted. Like some of the floors have been kind of squished together from the impact.
Pause.
But it looks like a lot of the more upper
yes. Try to
levels.
count the number of times you say, basically, because if you eliminate all of that, the description is going to be so much better because all of those things add up and it creates the huge exposition. So you're not talking to them, you're describing things. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be so hard. That's gonna be so hard for me.
It is. I do that too.
Yeah.
I do that too. I catch myself doing that too. Especially when you're trying to improvise and render a world on stuff. I catch myself. You don't want to though. You do want to be mindful of it and try and phase it out.
Yeah. It's a tough thing sometimes, man. But I'm so used to saying things that way all the time. You have to go ahead and really
don't describe anything unless a character brings it up.
It's a good point. You can see from the ground, still have a fairly decent level shape to them, although it's a little kind of at an angle. And she looks up there. She's like, "How do you plan on getting up there? Climbing?"
Your players are
Do you
ignoring
have any
me.
vac suits available?
We don't need back suits.
You guys have your combat environmental suits that you're utilizing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we still have those.
You've got this on 1.5 speed.
Well, it looks like we're just
Yes.
gonna have to
Let's
climb
find
up
an
there.
opening. Let's find an opening and see if we can't use internal stairwell.
That was a long pause, even for sped up 1.5 speed.
Yes. Yeah.
They must have been
Yeah.
sitting there for 20 seconds before they said something.
Yeah. Well, they were pondering what to do, I guess. So.
They should know what their character is going to do at every moment of their existence in the session.
Again, though, in their defense, and again, I don't, I'll just constructive criticism. Theater of mind is hard with info dumping narration. It really is, because you're not really pulling them into the world, So they're kind of just standing around waiting for what they believe to be the moments that you're stopping to wait for them to do something. So they're
That's
not
true.
really interacting with the world. They're waiting for their turn to say what they're going to do in it very briefly. So, you know, when you want to emphasize theater of mind, you really want to emphasize the narration and the story narration over the info dumping, so they feel more attached to the world.
Great. Okay, good, good. We have some more comments down here. And yes. So yeah, exactly.
I can't stand theater of the mind. I don't use it.
The mindscapes.
Mindscapes. Yeah, that's a good.
There we
That's
go.
a good one.
Alrighty.
Yeah, maybe check for any more access points. Good thinking, Ghost.
It's very easy to enter into the hull of this thing. Like I say, it's been kind of like the ship, which was once intact, has been pulled apart, leaving like floors exposed on the one end of the bulkhead that you see, and you see an awful lot of stories of floors in front of you, and just basically walking up to the bulkhead itself, like the floors itself, although kind of crushed and diminished, looks like you'd have to do a little bit.
So, Shar, are you gonna make a drinking game where I say basically
No.
all the time?
No, I would have had a picture to show them.
Gotcha. Yeah. This this was kind of spur of the moment. This was totally not planned at all. So this entire scenario, I had no
Okay,
absolute. Yeah.
You say you find the ship, it's crashed, it's cracked in half. Each half is exposing 20 decks of the ship. That's it. That's all you have to say. They can go explore and find out more about the ship if they want.
Yeah, I have to hold myself back. Yep.
Bit of climbing in there in order to make it up to where you want to. Floors are a little bit more not so compressed.
Oh, well, that's the highest endurance.
Shall we climb?
Who's climbing?
I'll climb.
Give
What
me
was
a
What was
dex check
that?
there, please, sir.
Yeah, you definitely want to
I'll
let
climb.
them
I'll climb.
figure that out themselves.
Nice
'Cause
one. Yeah,
you
you,
put yourself in
basically-
the party right there and
Who's
ask them
climbing? I'll climb.
who's climbing. You know, you want to let them
You can't.
figure
You
that out.
can't do. What do you do? You can't do. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you climb? Where do you climb? How do you climb? You can't do that. And then he says, "I'll climb. I volunteer."
And when you're
that's
describing the
that's his
ship
one
and
line
stuff,
in the,
I mean,
in
just
the
to
movie.
give it, when you're describing the ship when it was, you know, you described it broken from the crash or whatever, and it open and on the floors. It's very quick to describe a ship. So what I would do, because I want to breathe some life into this, is instead I start focusing on like the howling, sand-filled wind coming through the ship and beating on the party and things like that. So they, you know, when they start deciding who's going to climb or whatnot, like they have that going on. You know, they're yelling over wind. It's a treacherous situation. And again, it just layers it more. And now you're describing something cool instead of just the broken ship. You're describing, you know, the elements.
Yeah, more atmosphere and stuff like that. Yeah, I totally get it. It's just, you know, at the time, you know, you know, brain, you know, hindsight is 20/20 sometimes.
In the movie Alien, when you narrate the ship that's out there on the planet's surface, all you can do is say it's a giant horseshoe, and then the explorers have to go check it out. All they know is that it's a big ass alien derelict horseshoe looking ship. That's it. They'll
Zip up
find
there
out
in
soon enough.
your suit, and you're like, dunk, dunk, and you're climbing up and doing the thing.
I'll go next.
They need to describe what they're doing.
Nice.
Nice. So yeah, you make it up there expertly, no problem. You're just you know, clambering around, getting your footing, no problem. And you find.
You guys feel like I should be showing the rules or something like that, or does that
No.
even?
You can. It doesn't really depend. It's just a detail. I mean, I think people like to see rules, but if you trust the players and the audience also trust the players, I don't really think it matters.
Yeah, I actually have another screen going on in the background, which has the Fari app, which is where we're showing the roles and everything. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to project that onto.
But what Shanner said as well, yes, the players definitely need to describe things a bit more because it sounds
Yes.
like I attack. Attack what? I attack the darkness. No, let them describe. Encourage them before the game. Let them describe things with gusto or with
Yeah.
Yeah,
enthusiasm.
we don't even know where they're at. For all I know, some of these guys are still on a spaceship or in a house somewhere, and all of a sudden they're doing the climb or whatever. I'll be next.
Find some of the areas in here a little bit more accessible to crawl through, and you start moving on in. Further you go inside, you can notice that there's some sort of a stair system, also old elevator shafts and everything, kind of knocked out, opened up on the inside. This thing is, you're looking around, and a lot of stuff has been stripped out of this thing already.
Someone want to bring up the torches? And maybe some rope. Whatever we got, Frank.
Frank says, yep, I can do that. He grabs onto one of the units, puts it over his back, makes his way up there.
For the looks of things, we're not going to find anything worth salvaging until we actually have to start cutting our way in. In all likelihood, any scavengers probably, just took whatever wasn't nailed down. We're going to be taking the stuff that was nailed down.
Yeah.
And Frank radios you. He has a little bit of a trouble, but he's okay. He ended up getting caught up on a few things along the way. But
See, I missed the point. One thing that I could have had him, like something happen with Frank, because I'm describing something that they aren't actually seeing, but
Yeah.
it should have been more organic instead of
Yeah, do less of that and have the players do more of that.
yeah. Yes. Exactly. Anything else to add there, guys?
I don't know what you guys are doing. I guess someone's in the ship looking for something.
Yeah, they're climbing up into the Star Fury, and what they're looking for is the missiles. And they were going to go ahead and try and grab the missiles out of it and use them as part of their ploy to knock out the stuff out in orbit.
No.
Okay.
I'm okay. No problems. Seems to be all right.
Who's staying with the vehicle?
I'm staying with the vehicle. And probably Adamus as well.
I'm going to try to climb up and join them.
Oh, there you
Okay. Ellis, make a roll.
Maybe put see if Terabine's manning the guns just in case.
Sarah has a mind state.
Okay, now what's
I'm okay.
happening? What's happening now?
You know how to run the turrets?
Did they hyperspace to new locations all of a sudden?
No, there's the mining vehicle down below that they arrived in. So they drove the mining vehicle up to the bulkhead of the ship, and they're
Somebody's inside the ship. They can't find anything, and now they're inside a vehicle. All of a sudden.
No, they were, because we fast forwarded it here to this
okay.
This section. Yeah,
Okay.
they are. Yeah,
It's also
Gotcha.
very difficult to tell apart when the players are actually talking as their characters or they are describing their actions. It's kind of like they don't want to spend too much time describing. Like this, I climb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cobb isn't even looking at the camera, so I don't even know what he's doing.
Hmm.
we have some feedback here from everybody in the background. Yeah.
There's really just too little going on here to facilitate anything interesting with these, with the players.
Gotcha. Gets up there.
And I'll join the rest of the crew.
You're gonna jump out.
I'm going to jump out and climb up with the rest of them.
You roll.
Jump out?
It's like, stop it, Rick. Stop it.
And a dex check for you as well. For Adamus.
What did he do? Why did he have to roll?
He's going upwards.
That's how you do it.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Okay, so Gordo got the 11 and good roll. And Rise first roll. Alrighty.
Okay, what are they rolling for?
So you end up
climbing up through the bulkheads.
Okay, they need to say that they're climbing up still. Each time they're
I
doing
would have
something,
them
they need to
climb
say.
halfway up the bulkheads and then make them make the roll. So if they fail, they fail from there. You know.
Gotcha.
And as you have noticed, Rick, you somehow promote that sort of way of thinking, because you said, "Are you going to go up?" And then, "I'm going to." No, it's not. I'm going. I climb up. You see, and they get away
Yeah.
from the present moment. They're thinking in "I'm gonna," "I wanna."
Yeah, I'm
I
projecting.
climbed
I'm
up.
projecting. Yeah, I got to stop that.
I climbed the mountain.
top, you do find something saying missile arrays, silos this way, blah blah blah.
Follow the
Okay, who are you
road,
talking to? And who
You
asked
end
you
up
what
finding
they see?
the location of some of the.
Yeah, nobody asked me. I was just indicating that when Shadow is up above, that's what he's seen.
No, say yeah, his character needs to, act like he's looking for stuff.
He's
Yeah, I'm definitely projecting way too much towards these guys instead of.
I mean, seeing a big sign when you crawl up to the top isn't really a big deal. You know what I mean? I feel like you probably spot that, but again, there's too little going on here for really everyone to be involved. Definitely
Launch
needs
tubes?
more atmosphere and more urgency threats.
Yeah,
Tension.
I definitely have to throw in more atmosphere and things like describing maybe parts of the ship falling in and stuff like that as they're walking along or something like that.
Think if the scene is actually interesting. It's not
Yeah.
interesting to describe how they decided to go to the convenience store and now they are picking vegetables, or it's kind of like
Yeah.
If the ship is massive, it seems weird that they're able to, just touching the side of the ship brings them to exactly where they need to be to start going inside the ship. The ladder, the elevators just are conveniently right there, right where they're at. It's a huge ass ship. They should look around first.
There should be creatures too that made this ship their home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the things that they are doing. It's kind of like the thing that you would describe offhandedly, something that they did before the adventure. After you completed examining the ship, now you find yourselves. So,
Yeah.
Yep. And kind of like looking him over. Frank comes over with the torch and everything. Start setting up.
Let's open up this can of sardines.
Frank lights it up. Kaboom! Shadow, let's see.
Okay, what's the pause for? What's going on?
Because I'm looking up a chart.
Something just blew up. Something just blew up. You can't be looking in the rules book for what results of damage are. Before you blow stuff up, you should already know in your head how much damage that is.
Yeah. This was a hit location. I was getting him to roll the 2 locations that he was damaged at and how much damage it was. So basically, that was it.
All right.
Well, if you
But he needs to
Go
be
ahead,
saying he's doing that.
Bring it again here. It is going to be 1 die times 10. 50 points.
So this you should have milked more because you just had an explosion. So you finally had something pop that was exciting that the players can start interacting and reacting to, and the integrity of the ship can start failing, and all these other things. Like this is a part that you definitely should have pounced on.
Yeah.
And given more attention to.
Yep. Exactly. It doesn't sound as exciting as it was at the moment. So.
Roll me 2 6-sided dice individually there for you, Shadow.
And try to have like all your dice. Try to have all your dice
D6 each
right
time.
here.
Hey, you could do that from right at the bottom with those little cubes. The circle with all the cubes on the bottom.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd rather be. I want to stare at an explosion, a PNG file of some big ass explosion, not staring at a 5x10 die.
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
that one.
Bottom left.
Yeah. Bottom
Thank
left
you.
hand. There's.
I was rolling something completely different.
This I was just trying something different to see, you know, as a die roller instead.
Well, I'm
And
glad you
like-
showed it because I bought this app right after I watched this
yeah.
video.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad, but yeah.
It's a good die roller. I wouldn't use it in the game though.
Okay, and one more.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Okay. Let's.
All right, and on Frank, I will roll. We'll roll 2 individual dice for him and hit locations.
It's like, what is Cobb doing? What is Spencer doing? They look
All
like
right, the rest of you guys see this massive
they're
explosion
taking
happen.
SAT tests or something.
Yeah.
Above,
studying for
and
something.
you're like, "Holy crap!" You just feel this kind of like
You just told the players what they were doing.
you know, expansion.
Yep. My bad.
They need
Project-
to role play that they're near an explosion and they're feeling the shockwave.
Yeah.
Happen
How
above
close
you
were
in
they
the
to
trace atmosphere that sounds so shrill and so weird.
What'd they do?
Oh, what the heck was that?
You don't hear anything come from Shadow or Frank at the moment.
Shadow. Frank. Shit.
I'm gonna make my way up there.
And I get up there with haste.
Both of
I
you
like the
end
radio
up,
silence noise. You
climbing up.
should have
You can
hit
see
on that harder.
Yeah, I
a good
could.
way to represent the fact that you lost contact with those two players. You should have hit that sound effect a little harder
Yeah.
and really
Yep.
emphasized it, so they just had static on the other end of the line with two of their comrades.
Yeah.
Because their imaginations can latch onto that. You know what I mean? That's an easy thing for people to get in their heads when they hear that noise. You know, so that's the kind of detail that you want to pounce on because it'll resonate with everybody at the table.
I was just thinking that it's really a very boring scene. Like, there's no one that is going to tell you, I want to roleplay a space maintenance guy that goes into a ship and fixes things.
I
there was
do
like
think
a-
that you set yourself up here with. To me, this isn't a campaign. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't something that I would have set up for a campaign because there's not enough things going on in it.
Yeah.
I can see a situation in a game where they're trying to salvage a missile out of a down ship, but you know, overall, it just doesn't seem like it was necessarily a story that needed to be told, I guess is the way to put it.
Mhm. Just ask yourself, Rick, would you feel excited about participating in this sort of situation? Just ask yourself that.
Yeah. Like I said, this was a bummer session for me as far as I was concerned, you know, with myself, anyways. And yeah, exactly why I'm, you know, bringing this to you guys to say, okay, what can I do that would make it a lot better?
You
Because
much higher
that's what I do. I design things on paper
Have
and I'm
your
like,
wife
this
have
is
your
crap.
wife watch the video and see what she
Oh
says.
yeah, she'll hate this. I know she will. I
and
already
I'm
know that.
constantly trashy ideas. I'm like writing it. No, this isn't exciting at all. And I break it apart and I come up with the next
Yeah.
idea.
And that's the thing is this was supposed to be, you know, kind of like the more exciting thing, and it just really, to me, myself, I made it fall flat, and
Okay, like Mission Impossible scenes have Tom Cruise on the cable coming down, and he stops right before the red lasers see him, and then he steals the thing and he does some sort of spin around, and then
That
he goes
is
back up.
meaningless unless you set it up correctly, though.
But that scene, that Mission Impossible scene, is only about 2 minutes long. So when you guys go into the ship to get the get the missiles from the ship. How big are these missiles? Can you carry one? Do they have the anti-grav, clamps to pick one up and get maybe a rack of them and haul down with them? Aren't these missiles heavy? Even if they did find them?
Yes. Yes.
And catch the
How are
player's
they? They're going to
curiosity.
carry these nukes in their armpits while they're going down their ropes and stuff.
Well, that's the thing, well, right now they don't have anything to worry about that. So yeah.
Somebody should have died. Someone should have died if that thing had nukes. I expect half the players to not make it. Someone would have to stay behind because the lower deck of the ship has a fucking sandworm that's been living there for 6 months.
Yeah, I would definitely
now you've
put a
disturbed
creature
it.
in there because creatures. I mean, if you think about your world as a living, breathing thing, if a ship sinks to the bottom of the ocean, it becomes a home to many different things, and it'd be the same thing on a moon. And if they got to go into it and start salvaging it, like there should be things in there that made it their home that they have to deal with.
Whatever shot the spaceship down should be lurking around still.
Yeah, introduce that element. Like, you notice that somebody has been in this ship before you. No, like, who was there? Like,
Yeah, it could have made things a lot more exciting having something like that just introduced into it. But yep. Beep, brain fart me.
You just don't have it. You just want to layer all of your stuff more.
Yes.
Like more stuff again. Just layer more stuff again. Like I said, when you describe the ship, it should also be atmospheric with howling winds and things like that. And then also there should be creatures living in it. It's an old ship, so it should be falling apart. So when they take certain steps, parts of the ceiling should be collapsing in on them. There's a bunch of different tropes really that you can just call on for that sort of situation.
Yep, and I just fell flat on the whole thing there with
they find the device or what remains of a device that perhaps caused an explosion, and it belongs to a particular corporation. And now there is intrigue.
The other thing too is if you are gonna have the ship start rattling as they take steps and then collapse the ceiling when the pipe's on somebody, and they fail their dodge roll, literally crush them. Like, this is a side adventure. They decided to go into this falling apart, derelict, broken apart ship, and they should have to respect the danger of it and the danger of the world. So don't be afraid to kill somebody either.
Yeah.
Because the other players will get better for it.
Yes.
And they'll have a
I-
better
new
experience
character.
for it because they lost one of their men in the last session, going into an old, broken down, falling apart remnant of what was once a battleship that's been, you said, lying there for 20 years.
Yes.
So that should be dangerous, exploring that sort of thing. And it's a side mission, so you should feel even less bad about somebody dying if they want to. Side missions and downtime travel is where I break out my random encounter table the most, because it's like, if we're not on an actual campaign and you want to go brave the wild, I don't even have that's not where I'm going to use like a story element type encounter. That's where I'm going to introduce how dangerous the wilderness is by going to a random. That's where, I don't drop a dragon on someone's head because it's totally unfair, but they have to be out there in the world. So that's where like a random encounter table thing will come into play. And if they're going on this as a side mission, like you need to make sure it's dangerous. Like, they're the ones that are deciding to come into this falling apart, derelict, broken ship full of nuclear missiles that are probably unstable because they've been in here for 20 years. And it should be much more dangerous. And I wouldn't hesitate to kill somebody if they walk into death.
Right. Yeah,
Did you guys see that movie Annihilation? Natalie Portman. Oh, yeah, I won't spoil that.
I've probably seen it, but everything's forgettable lately.
You would remember if you saw it. Anyway, yeah, see that movie, then do your next Traveler session.
Okay. I'll check that out. Annihilation, right?
Annihilation. Natalie Portman. I think that's her name. The princess lady from
the
prequels.
Star Wars.
Yeah, with the weird lipstick.
Sweet. Alrighty. Yeah.
You guys, you don't believe how much you guys are really helping me here. It's awesome. Appreciate this. Yeah, a lot of the area has been like pulled apart, and you do see on one side you can see one guy slightly like skewed over, and you can see the kind of like an arm twitch.
You want to check on him? I will go see who else I can find.
Yeah, good call.
See if he needs any medical attention.
Yeah, you see the arm twitch, and you realize no, that's the arm twitching.
Oh my god.
So none of these guys have really had any opportunity for character development. They're literally the same pieces of sludge that they were when we first started this game. They have not gotten to develop as characters at all. Your world really hasn't evolved since we began, and they've moved from place to place and they've done a couple different things, but overall nothing has really happened. No steps forward have been taken, and when you start your next campaign that will take place right after this one started, there's no new wrinkles to anybody. There's no new character developments to anybody. There's no new world developments to anybody. So ultimately, nothing really happened.
I don't know anything about them. They are so average, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's nothing really kind of pointing them out to being.
You know
I mean,
what?
Gordo has been basically the only one that's been really kept to his negotiator kind of, attitude throughout the whole thing.
They mostly feel like they are role playing the hirelings that you sent on the side quest because you are a high level character and you send those hirelings and you make a check to see if they survive. That's how it feels.
They need a lot more attention though to get to want to do anything. They really don't have there's no real incentive for them to kind of leap out of the situation at all. There's just not really a lot going on.
Yeah. Yep. It's it's my bad.
No, I would just say when you're making, in the future, you really want to, when you're sitting at red lights, when you're taking a shower, whatever you're doing, when you have the time to think about it, you just want to think about how to structure all your game into a more impactful moment. Even if it's just the beginning that kind of sets them off, rocket launches them off, or impactful, meaningful moments for them to interact with. And the more that they interact, then the less that they'll need you, because their characters will start taking lives of their own and everything starts getting more natural. But there's nothing really organic for them to build out of in any of these scenarios.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's my bad, because I should be, creating these things, for them to, reflect upon at the time in each situation. Give them more atmosphere. Give them more, stop interjecting on them all the time like I do. So
give them toys to play with, exactly, and let them play with those toys.
Yes, and let them play. Don't tell them if you do this, something that shut up, Rick.
Like in the movie Alien, they wake up and they're walking around the ship, they're talking to each other, doing the banter. They don't exactly know why they're even awake yet. They don't even know if they're near Earth. They haven't even bothered to look yet.
The guys outside with the truck should have their own problems.
Your players
right now.
are
like
waiting for you to tell them that they've reached their destination or something.
The guys outside with the miner cart should have their own problems, while whoever's inside looking for the nuke has their issues, the people that are outside. And, you keep, like if you were watching a movie, as soon as one person, say you wanted to cut it at the explosion, and you go back to the mining cart and they're dealing with wind, and now there's like predator animals starting to lurk around and surround them. So you have a sense of urgency, you have time moving, and you have them with their own problems, and then you get into situations where they're going to start telling the people that are scavenging the ship that they need to hurry up over the comm, and you got people in the ship telling them what's going on while they're trying to salvage, and back and forth just starts happening because there's things happening that they're reacting to and that they have to react to instead of just getting info dumped on all the time.
Right. Yep. Whew. Alrighty. Well, it's a lot of stuff I got to go ahead and cover over, and kind of reassess what I do when I game master. So, like I said, this is all super awesome, good feedback, and
I
I'm
think that
gonna.
you'd be a lot better off immediately if you just focused on conjuring a more tense, exciting situation.
Yeah.
I feel like the other things would start to fall into place much quicker. But like Abraham said, this is more like a maintenance mission. These guys like work for the town, and they're going to check a water meter and clean up some garbage on the sidewalk.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Well,
Further
let's
on.
see what.
We need to find the rest of the body that goes to this arm. We better
Yeah.
keep looking.
I'm gonna look and see what material they uncovered, and it's still covered in material.
Like this place has been like blasted out, and there is shredded bulkhead all around here. Massive explosion happened. It looks pretty frightening.
Well,
In the meantime, Shadow, you kind of like you come to after a big flash, and you're still in your suit. Your suit's flashing all kinds of emergency lights in your face.
See, that's a good detail that you just added
It's
there.
reading off.
His imagination can latch onto that because that's a really good detail, having the blinking light, because everybody has seen that in movies. They've seen that in sci-fi movies, and that, like I said, that one little detail is something that everybody's imagination will grasp onto. So that was a good detail.
But don't try to influence the emotions. For example, a frightening explosion, not a huge explosion, a catastrophic
Right.
explosion. But perhaps the players are not frightened. Maybe one of them is quite jaded. He's like, "Here we go again, another explosion."
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Vital signs and everything. It's like communicating to you, tell you that all of these systems are offline and stuff.
Gonna try to make it to my feet.
You're like your body just feels like it's been hammered by something severely bad. Like you just seen everything go black, and then now you've come to kind of, and like you try to move yourself around, and you look around, and you want to get yourself up, but you kind of like move yourself up, and you look, and you don't have any legs left, and you are out in the middle of, like, you think you can kind of look around, and you see the remains of the ship.
Now I should have let him say that he was looking around, or yeah. I keep on pulling out the agency out of these guys every once in a while. Badly.
So did he lose?
So
his
so
legs
he's
in the
not near the
explosion?
ship now.
He's kind of off in a crater right now.
Did he lose his legs
Okay.
in the explosion?
He lost his legs.
Yeah. So in my brain, the course to take there would, again, to let him have his agency and him decide to stand up, and then you go into the horrific, Civil War-esque scene of him discovering that he's got no legs.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, Rick, when you say you look around, you're kind of like taking the head of the player, forcing it like to look around. You could say
Yeah.
something like, from the corner of your eye, you notice this. Like,
Yeah,
I
well,
saw it accidentally.
the player needs to say what they're doing. I'm looking around, the peripheral vision I have left, looking through my helmet, and that's when you say you're laying inside what looks to be a ginormous crater. Something like that. You're not near the ship. You can't even see the ship where you're at. You're in a
I thought your
crater.
description was fine until you took over for him.
Exactly.
Like the blinking emergency light was a really good little touch. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I mean when you throw something tropey out that everybody's imagination can really grasp onto. It's just that then you kept going and you took over for him.
Yeah,
Yes.
you
And
sort
that
of
would have
told
been
him
a
he
cool
has no
moment if
legs.
he was the one that tried to get up and then you went into the horrific scene of him, having no legs.
Could it be, Rick? Could it be that perhaps sometimes you want to participate as a player character? Because I get the sense that sometimes you want to be that player character. Because you look
Either
around
that,
and
you
you're
don't
kind
have
of
any
like,
trust that they're going to
possessing
move
the-
things forward, so you do.
Yeah,
it for them.
I think that's probably more of it for RPG is dumb. Exactly. I think I have to learn to trust my players to do the things kind of thing instead of prompting them to do the things.
I mean, if they're not, just stare at them until they do. They'll get it eventually.
Have the crickets going off in the background. Yep.
But I
Exactly.
mean, you can also introduce them to situations where there are time constraints. Otherwise, they're going to get overrun. And just if they get overrun, they get overrun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my next session is going to be a one shot, so it'll be a good opportunity for me to go ahead and try to hit the reset button on myself, and with the players. Once again, I think it'll be a good opportunity to kind of reflect on how to to get back to how to role play, say your action, and what you do, what you say, basically, and get them back into that kind of thing. And I think that's what my next session is going to be mainly focused on, is working on myself, on getting myself out of the character space and back into narrator form instead, and keeping to the narrator form, describing things a little bit more interesting instead of using the word basically all the time.
I think that Jacob is correct. And I also want to know, Rick, when was the last time you participated as a player character in a game?
Oh, it's been a long time.
I would highly recommend that you try it again. And now you can
Yes.
get the perspective from the player, because I think that would help you greatly, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah,
And
exactly.
Turn the knob up to 11 or 12, and have one of the players be the GM this time.
Okay.
Mm.
That would be
Just
interesting.
Just add drama.
Yeah. Well, that's basically the session. Is basically the rest of it's going to be a yak fest on the rest of it, because we kind of just set it from there on, and yeah. Once
But
again,
also think your session was like an hour, basically an hour and 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
think of it as an extended, I don't know, TV episode. You should have gotten a lot of stuff done during that hour and 15 minutes, right?
mhm.
Yeah, there was no character development. I mean, I've already said it, so I don't want to keep saying it because I don't want to sound like I'm harping on you. But there wasn't any character development. There wasn't any world development. There wasn't really a lot of development at all, except for the fact that Shadow got his legs blown off. The things that I think you did well is that there are a few details that you came up with that were very atmospheric. Again, the blinking emergency light. Those are the type of things that, again, I think that you should harp on. Those are the kind of things that I try and harp on my game, because I feel like it just brings everybody's imagination gets it, and it paints the rest of the scene. You can see it blinking off of the ceiling and off the walls, and everyone just kind of understands those sort of details. But when you did hit on a good atmospheric detail, you passed off, you moved off of it super quick and on to the next thing, where you should have held back a little bit and let them go.
Yeah.
And if
Yep.
they don't go, you also want ramifications for not getting involved in the game. So like I
Yes.
said, with the minor car outside, predators, like a pack of predators starting to surround and investigate and take an interest in the fact that there's these human beings outside this derelict, broken down ship, would have gotten things going on. It would have got communication going between the players and the guys in the ship, assuming they had comms. Just one little layer can contribute to getting things going between the players and whatnot. So if you add 3 or 4 of those layers, then I feel like you can step back a lot more and just let the players do their things, because they have things happening and things that they need to manage and deal with and communicate and do.
Give them fun and exciting things to do, because character development also relies heavily on what you do, on how you interact with the world. Like in the first session of the Super Smash Bros. Campaign, only 30 minutes but you already knew, oh, Elroy the mouse is kind of like a mousy Sonic the Hedgehog, and Johnny is kind of like a Rambo Contra slash Metal Gear sort of character.
Contras. I remember
Yeah.
that game.
In my Legion of Myth game, one of the players got sucked up by a giant black tentacle monster, and another one of the players jumped into the water even though he didn't know how to swim. You know what I mean? So little things like that will say a lot about a guy. You know what I mean? That jumps into a pool of demon water when he doesn't even know how to swim, and those opportunities set that up for him to kind of establish who he is, and in this case being a courageous badass. But the situations are there for them to demonstrate that or not demonstrate that.
It seems like the players were doing what they would have chosen to do, not their character.
Yeah, in some respect, yes, for sure.
Like, I'm going to solve this mystery as myself, as a player, not what my character would do.
My advice would be to focus more on narrating and not so much info dumping, to layer more tension into all of your scenes and more purpose. And NPC dialogue, you want to get more efficient.
Okay. Kit? Good points.
That was fun.
That would be my 3 points, takeaways from this.
Yeah.
Tighten up the NPC dialogue, work on more dramatic narration instead of info dump after info dump. Know what is irrelevant that you can move past with just minimal, for example, trucks dropping off equipment, and just layering the scenes as much as possible and giving other people what to do. Like again, going back to that other campaign, I had a guy watching the APC truck. Max made Connell stay with the APC truck. And every now and then, even though the 4 other players had a mission and an objective, I would cut back to the truck and introduce some level of danger that he was going to have to deal with by himself, and then cut back to the main party. So there's all sorts of things going on, and you never know what the players are going to do. When the players start making decisions and choices, these little tiny things will start to connect and move and grow and spiral out of control, and the situation just starts to develop and right itself. But you didn't have enough layers for that to happen here.
All of those small instances tell you a lot more about the world and the characters that info dump or dialogue between non-player characters. Those small moments.
Yeah. Sweet, guys. I guess I got to go run for some supper here. I got my wife calling me and everything. But I really, really appreciate the feedback, and you guys gave me some really good, stuff to key in on for my next session. I'm gonna go ahead and really try to keep at it and improve my game. That's for sure. And once again, RPG is dumb. Shauner, Abraham, super appreciate what you guys have done here. Help me, collate what exactly I'm doing wrong, and it definitely will help me in the future here. So appreciate it, guys.
No worries. Always happy to help. If you also would like Abraham, Shoner, or I to come on and roast your game and tell you what you're doing wrong, just let us know.
No problem. Like I say, that's why my channel is here, is to go ahead and take what I'm doing and try to improve on it more and more each time. So it helps me. Definitely helps other people that are kind of watching this stuff and say, how can this be a bit better? And it's stuff that people can reflect on their games too. And you guys given some really good feedback. I really appreciate it. So we'll end it there. Thank you once again. And for those who are out there, once again, we're gonna do the ending thing. Appreciate you guys being here, guys. Take care.
Problem.
Hey, since you've made it this far in the video at the end, you may as well hit that subscribe button, because it's free. Honest, it's free. Just go ahead and hit it. I'm learning stuff. You're learning stuff. We all learn together. Subscribe. Just do it.